TikTok to me is like this really amazing platform which I use on a daily basis, mainly as like a form of doom scrolling to pass time. But sometimes I find it being a place of, education, conversation, and a chance to actually better yourself as a person. But conversely, the flip side to that is there's also a lot of misinformation on it and also general hatred and intolerances. And I think because TikTok is this platform where so much short form content is just constantly being uploaded, it's kind of created this place where people just upload and they'll just comment things without really thinking, and through that you can kind of see people's true colors and true intentions, which is what kind of really motivated me to want to make this video today about all like the weird anti-Palestine misinformation that I'm seeing on TikTok. But first I feel I should introduce myself if you're new here. My name is Cowder's Life, and on this channel we do video essays about things we see on the internet and then we all discuss it as a team down below in the comments section. And if you're not new here, hello again old friend, it's me, your boy Cow. Just a heads up, this video will be a lot more serious than my usual content, but it's one I feel needs to be done. So here we are. In this video we're going to be diving into the very harsh realities faced by the Palestinian people under Israel's occupation. We're going to be talking about the human rights violations, the systematic discriminations, and the violence perpetrated against them. The aim of this is to use the TikToks as a starting point for the further conversation throughout this video. Just try and shed some light on the ongoing struggles for Palestinians and just like the real urgent need for international attention and action. So with that, let's start with some of the TikToks so we can really paint an actual picture of sort of the misinformation and the arguments going on TikTok. First, I just want to show you this snippet from an interview with the Israeli ambassador to the UK, because it really does just set the tone for how the Israeli government view this whole genocide of Palestine.
I'm asking you, do you have any empathy with the Palestinian position?
I have zero empathy to people that time after time refuse to recognize the right of the Jewish state to their homeland, Jewish people in their homeland.
You can't even get your point right. You're taking their land. This is the horrifying thing. Israel's government believe they can just take from Palestine. Noah did an incredible video about this also. He showed some of the horrifying tweets from Israeli government officials. This isn't just a localized event just to this person. They all think with this same mindset of just taking Palestine because it's theirs. They don't recognize the people in Palestine as innocent civilians. They think this is a battle of good versus bad, and they're just lumping all these innocent humans in this battle. It's horrifying, it's just completely immoral, and it's devoid of any humanity. And the crazy thing is you just get hundreds of comments being like, well done lady, I like her already. These are not localized, there's just loads of them, and it's horrifying that people will just be like, yeah, I totally condone the genocide of Palestinians. I condone millions getting uprooted from their homes, countless dying. I don't get how you can morally sit by and just be like, yeah, that's good, that's okay. I'm fine with, thousands and thousands of babies and children dying. What is going on? Something I do want to bring attention to very early on in this video though, is the very clear difference between Zionism and the Jewish faith. I think because of all this misinformation that's going on TikTok, people just arguing in comment sections, I've seen like a real increase in anti-Semitism just because of maybe a lack of education on the subject matter. What we are seeing in Israel and how they are treating Palestine is because of the government's Zionist regime. But that does not represent the Jewish community. There's a really good Instagram account called Jewish Voice for Peace. Their page rallies for the justice of Palestine whilst also educating people on the subject matter of Zionism. What is Zionism? Zionism breaks every single Jewish value. Why are we anti-Zionist? Zionism is a 19th century political ideology that claimed Jewish safety required a Jewish-only nation state. As anti-Zionists, we know the history of oppression, but we reject Zionism as the answer. Using the strategy of maximum land, minimum Palestinians, Zionist movement embraced settler colonialism as a key tactic to force Palestinians off their land. Zionism led to the murder and mass displacement of Palestinians from their land, culminating in the 1948 Nakba, where 750,000 Palestinians were expelled from their homes and thousands murdered. The Israeli governments and the US Jewish institutions that defend Zionism and the State of Israel want us to think that Zionism was inevitable and that to be Jewish means to be Zionist. We know nothing could be further from the truth. As long as Zionism has existed, there were Jews standing in opposition of it. And this is not just localized to this page. Many people of the Jewish faith are speaking out about how Zionism does not represent them.
If I were to ask you, are you a Zionist, what would you say?
Absolutely not. You can't be both.
What's the difference between Judaism and Zionism? What's your answer to that?
Judaism is a religion which was started by Abraham.
Yes.
And Zionism has nothing to do with the religion. It's
At all.
a nationality which has nothing to do at all with the religion. On the contrary, it contradicts with the religion of Judaism.
So Palestine, their occupation is illegal. It's illegal.
Right, yeah.
You have no right to it.
No, you can either be a Jew or a Zionist.
And I feel strongly about saying this at the beginning just because I had conversations with people early on in the research stage of this video who weren't particularly clued up about what's going on, and they didn't really understand the difference. So I just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge that there is a huge difference between Zionism and Judaism, because what's going on in Palestine and the genocide of Palestinian people is horrible and it's heartbreaking and it's completely wrong, and we need to come together as a world and stop this injustice. But this is happening because of a Zionist Israeli government, not because of Jewish people. And I just wanted to really show the difference there. That this is a Zionist person.
Every single place in it, every single land, every little spot, everything is the truth. Not a single piece for other people, only for us. If we don't give anybody else, just for us. That's what we believe.
And reminder, this is what a Jewish person who is pro-Palestine sounds like.
Rain or shine, free Palestine.
Are you Jewish?
Yes, I am.
Is it anti-Semitic to criticize Israel?
Let me say this very, very clearly. It is not anti-Semitic to criticize Israel.
There are also countless examples of times where people are trying to protest for Palestine and they are met with Zionist supporters like this.
Let's cut open your stomach, take out your fetus and throw it in an oven and then smell it.
Now you may be wondering, why is all this crazy shit even on her mind in the first place? That, my friends, is a little thing we like to call projection. All those things that she just said, the Israeli Defense Forces have literally done to Palestinians during the Nakba and after. So just for future reference with like political movements going forward, if one side is saying, hey, stop killing babies, and the other one said, how dare you say that? I'm gonna cut open your stomach and throw your baby in an oven so I can smell its burning corpse. That kind of tells you right there who's on the right side of history.
This Zionist mindset is truly so scary, and it's gone to the point where it's so devoid of humanity that they do not see Palestinians as human beings.
Hi everyone. Woo, wow, you hear that? It is, I think, 1 p.m. We are going to be leaving Ashkelon now because I just don't feel safe here. But I do want to give you one piece of good news, that day and night, every few minutes, sometimes seconds, I can hear our IDF, our incredible army, bombing the living daylights out of Hamas.
Like, this is harrowing because it's so far from the truth. If by Hamas you mean all the innocent civilians whose houses and lives are being destroyed and taken just to try and fulfill this fake agenda that you're trying to push, that this is all in battle against Hamas, when it's really not. What you're trying to do here is a genocide of all Palestinians. And I really like how this person separated Zionism from the Jewish faith. It is your willful choice to tie yourself to an ideology of ethnic cleansing and Jewish supremacy. Jewish identity is not defined by Zionism, and frankly, it is anti-Semitic to suggest so. But then sadly, you just get like brain-dead people who are not even thinking about the totality of their words in the comment section, treating this as if it's some sort of like soccer or football game. Peak for you, mush. Come on, Israel. This is not 90 minutes of 11 players either side kicking a ball back and forth. This is great injustices going on, and you are breaking it down to peak for you, mush. Come on, Israel. And for my audience that aren't from the UK, peak for you, mush is like bad for you, buddy. Like, they're being very sarcastic, they're being very cheeky and rude with it. And those sorts of words shouldn't really be used in a conversation about Palestine and the genocide it is facing. All these videos of protests and such are littered with comments like, Zionism will always be victorious. So you just think millions should be displaced from their homes, countless should be killed, hospitals, schools destroyed. Where is the justice in that? There are countless videos, as Noah highlights in his video, and I do urge you to check it out. It's a really incredible educational video showing how there's Zionists making fun of Palestinians, acting as them, like making fun of their situation, belittling them. It's harrowing and it's horrible, and it shows the true intentions and the true reality of these Zionist people. There are no words I can use, like heinous, immoral injustice doesn't describe in totality just how awful and disgusting this situation is. And I feel with that, I would just like to go into the video essay part of this video now, as there's no more to be gained from just looking at horrible Zionist comments on TikTok. I now would like to use my platform to educate on what is actually going on in Palestine. So I feel first I should just give historical context for just how long these injustices have been going on in Palestine. In the 1940s, Israeli Zionist forces began their ethnic cleansing by expelling Palestinians from their homes. An estimated 80% of Palestinians lost their homes, 530 Palestinian towns were destroyed, and the Zionist forces also took over 78% of historic Palestine. And yes, there is no doubt about it, this really is an ethnic cleansing that is still ongoing to this day. Zionists have historically pushed and murdered Palestinians from their home in order to have majority control over the land. Even just since last October, Israelis' occupation forces have killed over 40,000 people in Gaza. And this figure shockingly includes a believed 10,000 people who are buried under rubble from all the bombing and destruction that Israeli forces have done. Innocent lives that don't even get to have a burial with their family. They're just stuck somewhere waiting to be found. And more than 78,000 people have been injured from these attacks since October. An argument you will hear time and time again from Zionists and Palestine genocide deniers is that they believe Israel's forces are justified and needed as they are trying to beat Hamas. Hamas itself claims it's a armed resistance group who resists the occupation of Palestine and believes in self-defense and liberation. The Israeli government, of course, though, believes they are a terrorist organization. And because of this is how they perfectly justify displacing millions of Palestinians and murdering countless innocent civilians. There are currently more than 1.4 million people seeking refuge in Rafah, of which children make up 600,000 of that number. And all these people are seeking help because they've been moved from their homes forcibly, lack good medical care and clean water. And it has been this way for months. What makes this whole thing even more absurd is there's many sources saying that the Israeli government were allowing briefcases of money to be sent over to Hamas to help fund them. Now, why would a government leader allow for money to be sent to something it considers a terrorist organization? Well, it's corruption. It keeps the puppet show going for the rest of the world. Israel are like, look, we're fighting the bad guys. Look, everybody, Hamas, bad. We're fighting them. We're gonna destroy them. We're gonna beat them once and for all. Just please ignore the fact that we are going to be taking over the whole of Palestine by force, killing any child or earthly being that gets in our way doing so. But guys, just remember that these deaths are offsetted by the fact that we're going to stop Hamas. Totally not because we're Zionists who are trying to take all of this land for ourselves. Furthermore, what makes this even more heinous is that Joe Biden and the USA have been giving millions to Israel in guns and aid. And some recent reports are now speculating whether these guns that have been given to Israel from the USA have been actually used in the genocide against Palestinians. This is all completely unjust and totally unfair on Palestine. Israel has been backed by huge, powerful countries, which has sadly left Palestine and its people in horrific conditions. And this brings me on to my next talking point. The humanitarian crisis going on in Gaza. Israel has really employed so many unethical tactics on Gaza's Palestinians, which is directly leading to the death of thousands. Israel has cut off Gaza's electricity and water supply, and according to The Guardian, over 90% of the water is deemed undrinkable, and the only source of water has been an aquifer, which has been contaminated by sewage. The average person in Rafah, Gaza only has access to 2 litres of water a day. And now, with those 2 litres of water, they have to cook, they have to clean, and they have to drink. The recommended standard minimum for a person is 15 litres a day. This is just so truly harrowing. Gaza has 2 main sources for electricity: power lines from Israel and a power plant in Gaza. However, Israel shut off the power to Gaza in October, and in that same time period, Gaza's power plant shut down as it did not have enough fuel to power it. Gaza truly is in a resource crisis. Hospitals are running out of power, which means that patients and people that need medical care might not be able to be seen to, as they can't operate on them and give them the needed treatment. To worsen this, Israel continually denies external aid into Gaza, imposing blockades and restricting the amount of aid they let through. And during all of this, Israeli forces have also been documented to attack civilians who were just simply seeking aid. There are also signs that Israeli forces are trying to commit ecocide within Gaza, thus destroying any chance of future life for Palestinians. 40% of Palestine's agricultural land has been destroyed, of which, within northern Gaza, 90% of their agricultural land is destroyed. Sources say that on multiple occasions, Israeli forces have dropped white phosphorus bombs, and this type of bomb has been shown to leave long-term negative ramifications on the environment. The Israeli forces are applying more and more pressure onto the innocent lives of Palestinians. You know, innocent civilians that are just trying to exist. Their conditions and their life is just getting worsened by this horrible, immoral regime. Israel's forces continue to push throughout Palestine, taking what they want. And this brings me on to my next talking point, which is military occupation and settlement expansion. Israel to this day continues to build settlements throughout the whole of Palestine, building thousands of illegal homes in their efforts to take over. An Israeli official even tweeted out, "Enemies try to harm and weaken us, but we will continue to build and be built up in this land." Now, to me, that doesn't really sound like they want peace. Kind of the opposite, actually. They want domination. They want to take over. They want a genocide. There are believed to be around 750,000 settlers in Palestine's West Bank, and these settlers are allowed to be armed, and they're also defended and protected by Israeli military. There have been thousands of reports of these settlers being violent towards Palestinians, destroying their vehicles and their trees. The damaging of olive trees is a very notable one for Palestinians, as olive trees make up 45% of agricultural land, and income from olive oil supports an estimated 100,000 Palestinian families. This Zionist movement has destroyed hundreds of Palestinian towns and cities, displaced millions, and murdered an unperceivable amount of innocent lives. And why, you ask and cry? Well, it's all for this Zionist government's objective of a Zionist-only state. And in that, it's shown time and time again through the Israeli government's actions and their military that Palestinians are not welcome in that state. They wish to take over all of Palestine, evicting all these innocent people, all for their agenda. And this moves me on to my next talking point. The Israeli government's continued violence and human rights violations. Israeli forces have attacked hospitals where thousands of innocent civilians were. They have unlawfully detained countless, often employing incredibly humiliating techniques such as stripping and blindfolding. There have been reports of them on purposely using tanks to run over and crush Palestinian civilians. The Israeli government's Zionist agenda is nothing short of pure lawless evil. They truly know no compassion for innocent lives. They see everybody that's not part of their Zionist regime as the same, something to be either displaced or murdered. Since October, where Israel's forces went on this genocidal rampage, they have now killed more than 15,000 children, 137 media workers and journalists, 492 health workers, and 185 UN workers. There are literally no logical reasons for Israel's forces to be killing children. There is none. The fact that they're killing medical workers and journalists who are just trying to help. What is going on is truly unforgivable and just goes against humanity. Their government's Zionist regime is anti-humanity. If you still find yourself on the fence in this conversation and you're like, oh, but Hamas, we need to just stop them and then it'll all be good, I really urge you to consider and listen to my next point. The ethnic cleansing and forced displacement of millions of Palestinians. Netanyahu, the Israeli Prime Minister, and his gang of Zionists truly believe they are entitled to Palestine's land for their ethno-state. Like, look at this map. Israel chooses to keep on taking more and more away from Palestinians with no regards for them. They have destroyed hundreds of homes, lawlessly killed and displaced millions. Studies are now suggesting it may take up to 80 years for Palestine's Gaza to be rebuilt to the standard it once was. Everything Israel's forces are doing is done so purposefully, so calculatedly, to make sure that Palestine can't exist. to eliminate it. From creating roadblocks, from creating checkpoints, to creating highway systems that only Israeli people are allowed to use. All of this is going on in Palestinian land. What we are seeing live time here is a takeover using systematic discrimination and an apartheid. Palestinians do not have access to the same resources, services, or even legal protection. And this is all because of the fact that they are Palestinian. And how this all links back to an ethnic cleansing is the fact that Israel's government will continue to kill innocent civilians, drive them from their own land, where their families have been for generations. As I mentioned earlier, 1.4 million people are seeking refuge in Rafah. They have been forcibly removed from their own homes, and the Israeli government will continue to push for this agenda. They will continue to build illegal settlements all throughout Palestine. It is truly mental that these Palestinians are being forced to either leave their own homes or live under ruling which oppresses them. Or, failing that, it looks like they will just kill you. The fact that that is a sentence is heartbreaking. Israel have made it so clear time and time again that this is not about ending a war. For them, it is about colonialism and eradicating all Palestinian life. Now with that, I would like to discuss my final point. Solidarity and advocacy. I truly think it is important that as a collective humanity around the world, we stand with Palestine and support advocacy for justice, human rights, and equality. I truly feel like that through the power of protest and speaking out, the tides are turning. I am finally seeing more often articles from countries all over the world calling out and condemning Israel for their actions against innocent civilians in Gaza and the rest of Palestine. Just the other day, I saw multiple articles from multiple different sources calling out for investigations to see if Israel had been using US supplied guns to attack Palestine. I truly believe if we continue to protest and pressure our own governments to do something, change will occur. I do understand though that not all can protest for a vast array of personal reasons, but what you can continue to do is consume media that educates you about what is actually going on in Palestine. My 3 favourite sources to use on Instagram are Let's Talk Palestine, Jewish Voice for Peace, and So Informed. I feel like these 3 pages do a good job at communicating what is happening clearly and simply. Moreover, if you can share these posts with friends and family, it can educate and in turn promote change. I also understand that if you're watching this, you probably have an interest in YouTube in general. A bunch of the biggest creators like Curtis Connor, Hassan, and Frankie Frogbait have all gotten together to create Creators for Palestine, and their goal is to raise $1 million for Palestinian aid. It is great to see these huge creators use their platform to raise awareness and try to help. I would now like to conclude on this video. I think it is clear that the struggle for justice, equality, and freedom for the Palestinian people is far from over. Moving forwards as a community, I think it is essential for us to continue amplifying Palestinian voices, challenging oppressive systems, and advocating for meaningful change. By standing with the Palestinian people and supporting them in whatever ways we can, protesting, sharing educational information, writing to relevant bodies. Through all of these things, and more, we can help foster a world where all people can live in dignity, freedom, and health. Thank you for giving your time to watching this video. There'll be links down below to relevant resources which can educate and inform, and I shall see you all in the next video.